Pleasant good morning to you. No, it's not that Elise Kelly has a sore throat. Elise is taking some well-deserved rest. I'm Clyde McKenzie trying to fill some big shoes this morning as I try to fill the gap today for the great Elise Kelly, who is unavoidably absent today. Wow. So many things are happening around the world. You know, there's wars, rumors of war, and then you have people having meltdowns, people hurting each other. But at the same time, we have to stay positive because regardless of the mayhem and the sadness, life is still beautiful. And it is for us to focus on the positive and to try to extract the best we can. And at this time, as we promised, we'll be having an interview with Miss Audrey Budhi, yes, and Miss Budhi is manager for Trafficking in Persons Unit at the Ministry of National Security. Miss Budhi, are you there? Yes. And many people would say, you know, those people who engage in human trafficking should end up in the penitentiary. That's the place to be for them. But, you know, Miss Budhi will have words on exactly what steps are being taken to reduce the level of trafficking, human trafficking, that is, in Jamaica. You know, we talk about drug trafficking and we talk about all different other kinds of trafficking, but there is human trafficking where people are, you know, kidnapped and taken away, adults, children, sometimes for various reasons. Sometimes it might be custody issues, but that can be trafficking too, you know, because you don't have permission. You don't have permission to really have that person in your custody. Miss Budhi, are you there? Audrey?
I am. Nice to talk to you. How are you?
I'm great. Great talking to you, man.
Okay.
Long time.
Long time. Sorry we couldn't connect, but
yes.
We will talk.
We will talk, Audrey. Yes. So you are now, you have been a busy woman, I mean, doing so many different things. And this time now, I understand that you are in the Trafficking in Persons Unit at the Ministry of National Security. Now, what exactly is your role there? What do you do there?
I am currently the manager of the Secretariat for Trafficking in Persons. Now, the Secretariat is the body that coordinates the work of the National Task Force Against Trafficking in Persons. And I'll tell you more about the National Task Force as you go along in the discussion. So that's what I'm doing now. Always with vulnerable people, children, and communities, as you know.
Trafficking is a serious issue. I mean, human trafficking. And it is something that we need to bring public awareness to, because sometimes people can become victims inadvertently. You know, you are there and you are moving along harmlessly in your own way, and suddenly you become a victim. Tell us some of the ways that people can fall victim to human trafficking, Audrey.
One is just false advertising. You definitely will see a nice ad in a magazine, the paper, wherever, and with what's happening with social media, I can't tell you. So they'll say, okay, this is a job, and you will be able to go and you'll be able to do this, you'll be able to go to this country. We can get your visa for you. We'll get everything in passport. And, oh, it's going to be oh so nice. And you can be trapped and you can be fooled in terms of, picking it up and say, listen, I get this job in and it's going to be all so good. It could be that your own people or some middle person in a community because of vulnerable situation would come and say, all right, mom, I can send this person to school, or I can, look after, buy the books and so forth. And before you know it, your family become indebted to this person or persons. And then when you are taken as a child or even as an adult, boy, men, girls, women, then you are fooled, you're tricked, and your family is held ransom.
So normally, when people are trafficked, it is usually for labor purposes?
No, we have different kinds of trafficking. Labor purposes is you can have domestic servitude, where people will take you in a household or wherever, or just work you out and so on. You don't get pay. You're slave-like activities.
You don't have any control over your movements and that kind of thing.
You don't have any control over your movement, especially if you're in school age. You can't develop. You're not going to school. You're not doing this or you're not doing that. We have just brought home a fellow from one of the islands who was taken there through, sad to say, a church group, not knowing, innocently. When he went, he was locked up in the house for the entire time, cleaning, cooking, doing this and that for the entire family. How we got, apparently, I don't know what happened, and he walking the street, was going to go to the, go at the seaside, somebody saw him, willing to go commit suicide because of domestic servitude. We have also rescued 30 odd clients, 30 odd youngsters under the age of 18. I think the oldest was about 15, 16 from Honduras, I think it was. In the sea, it was because of our border control and the shipping vessel went off. And you're talking about deep sea fishing. So therefore, those are some of the things that happen under labor. Sex trafficking now is another aspect of things where you are trafficked for sexual exploitation. So we're finding out that especially the boys and the men, more in terms of the labor, and the girls for domestic servitude, the boys as well for domestic servitude in other countries and so on, like child soldier, going in the mines to dig for this and all of those things. And the women and girls a lot for domestic servitude, as I mentioned before, and sex exploitation.
So tell me, the methods used by these traffickers, the boys you're talking about, were they snatched off the streets or they were lured by these traffickers?
There were more. Most of them were lured, and also some of the families were tricked in saying that these were going to wherever to just get, as a fisher person or a fisherman or a fisher that didn't finish, they're going to school, or it was summertime or so. I know it was during the time, it was December, because I remember we did not have a Christmas nor a New Year's at that time. So they were lured and so on. So that is why I'm saying that the family themselves can be tricked. People come in and saying, right here in Jamaica, okay, I can send you to school, I can give you this lunch money, I can give you that. Sometimes they are the little person. So there's a lot of trickery and a lot of ways that persons can be trafficked. And we are thinking that the worldwide domestic servitude has been about 27% of all the cases. And sexual abuse has been about 58% worldwide. And
sometimes it's a combination where the domestic servitude and the sexual abuse and the sexual trafficking are conflated.
Definitely. We have experience of that as well, where the person was taken in and was working in the household, cooking, cleaning, washing, cooking, cleaning, washing, cooking, cleaning, washing, and as well playing the part of a sex slave, being exploited for sex and so forth and so on. It's a case that we won as well in Jamaica. the prosecution one.
But you're saying that in many cases people are trafficked through institutions which they trust and people that they have faith in. How
A
sig-
lot of a lot of times. Actually, we at the National Task Force, we have a docudrama that we're trying to push because the story is so real, wherein you could be thinking that it's a lover, a boyfriend, and especially the adolescents and so on, you're getting love and the person treating you fine and so, and that person is getting paid from the real big man, the trafficker, to get you. And I mean, the story is so, alive. You could see yourself in it. We're trying to push that and to get some sponsors to get it around because articulate in a down-to-earth way, not these speaky, spooky definition and so on, what can happen to you. And when the man handed over that girl in that docudrama, which I suppose could come from a true story, he just take the money and gone.
Yeah.
So the person was more than apart from just, you can just imagine the psychological, the trauma of both the body and the mind.
The mind, yes. But these traffickers oftentimes, well, you have middlemen who they're the ones,
middlemen and women.
and
sir.
women, right, who they're the ones who they get to the victims, lure them, and then they offload them to the final user. So it might be someone who is going to be engaged in sexual abuse or in domestic abuse or whatever it is. But it's a lucrative business for these middlemen.
It's lucrative straight up to the top. Because one of the things that, because the drug trafficking and others are so high on the agenda of international crime, there are a number of institutional things that have been put in place that makes it even more difficult for drug trafficking and, arms trafficking and so forth. What has happened is that human trafficking have become now more lucrative because of the just way it can navigate itself through straight to the top without detection.
Right.
So it's difficult for persons who are working in this kind of field to cauterize it and carry out. And that is why the IOM has started this campaign about youth voices to lead human trafficking campaign, because you want to make sure that the young people from an early age sort of, like in psychology and social work, when you say good touch, bad touch, you start teaching them early. This is what the campaign is about, where the IOM, that is the International Organization of Migration, have been doing this campaign, and it is seeking to sensitize the children and adults to identify and respond to the signs of human trafficking in terms of what you're asking me, and to underscore the importance of how we address human trafficking in the classroom, in the community, also promoting, development and so on, in how we're dealing with it. So that is what even this discussion with you is all about. And we would like to, after the program, maybe talk with your producers and so on to see how we can further, carry out the campaign or what we are doing here at the Secretariat through the National Task Force. Our chairman of the National Task Force 5 is Mr. Courtney Williams. He's the permanent secretary for the Minister of National Security. So we are linking up everyone. So the campaign, definitely, the young children did the artwork and did the drawings and so on, because you, being a person of high culture, know that you have to have the message go out in different ways, and especially what's happening in the world in Jamaica today, you have to find different ways of how you can communicate.
I want to ask you, Audrey, about the connection between the various nodes of trafficking, arms trafficking, drugs trafficking, human trafficking. Are they conducted, you think, by the same people or the same groups? Are they interrelated? When we're going to take a break, and when we come back, we will hear your response to that question, Audrey. Before we took the break, I was discussing whether it was the same group of persons who were involved in the different types of trafficking. As far as your intelligence goes, what is the information that you have?
Okay, two things. Just we're a secretariat now, but I'm glad you're speaking it into being, that we will be a unit soon. No, you've asked a deep question. And when you ask those questions, it's important for us to be able to answer solidly. It's not something that I would have the authority on, although we would have read and see evidence of whatever. How I would look at it, Sir Clive, is when you're dealing with crime, there are always some dotted lines, some connection, and especially when you're dealing with things in terms of cross-border and linking up with other countries and so on. Perhaps there are similarities with the persons who are the big persons who are on top of the situation. I cannot and will not at this point answer directly to say, yes, they are the same persons or not. Suffice to say that when it is crime, you always see some of the same persons, one way or another, involved or have some maybe connection or linkages, as the case may be. But this could be like we could have a panel discussion on it and get the views from different perspectives, even from the the persons who study criminology, study crime, study movements, and so on. But I do think that there could be some connection and some connected dots, as the case may be, because when it comes to crime, it comes to crime.
Now, Jamaicans are affected in terms of their being victims of this crime. I want you to define in a legal way, if you can, Audrey, what is human trafficking and how can one be charged for human trafficking? What would one have to do to be guilty of human trafficking?
So the legalese is, first of all, trafficking in persons involves the recruiting, the harboring, or transfer of a human being for the purpose of exploitation, which we spoke a little bit about. Most trafficking
exploitation, that means for commercial purposes?
Commercial purposes and to earn from that that action or those actions.
Usually in an illicit manner.
Through coercion, where you dupe somebody, and other means, force and other means. So definitely what we look at three elements that must be present to establish that an incident of trafficking of adults are where you have an act, which is the recruitment, which is the activity, right? That's the activity, what is done. So what is done is the recruitment, the transportation, and harboring, right? Then another is the means in terms of how it is done. Coercion, deception, abduction, abuse of power. Now, hold the point a bit, because when it comes to the means, it is not necessary for children, because no one under the age of 18, right, can give any permission.
Consent, yes.
Consent is the correct word. So the other one now, the other element would be the purpose. Why is it done? And we spoke about that. We have been speaking about that in terms of exploitation, sexual exploitation, as we mentioned, and forced labor. I also mentioned that in the case of a child or child trafficking, persons under the age of 18, there's a key difference in terms of the means. that element is not required for exploitation to be considered. So you don't have to, threat don't have to be there. The use of force don't have to be there, or any other coercion or abduction or fraud for it to occur. It's only necessary to demonstrate the act for the purpose of sexual exploitation or forced labor.
Tell me a little bit about the destination of those who are being trafficked. For example, Jamaicans who are being trafficked. Is this an internal kind of operation? Is the end point in Jamaica, or usually is the end point outside of Jamaica?
So actually, and truth be told, when Jamaica first started looking at trafficking in persons, a lot of persons, especially, in the area of justice and so forth, internationally felt that it was definitely had to be transportation out. With what's happening now and with the new information and new protocols that have been written and signed, you don't have to even leave your own house. You don't have to go nowhere to be trafficked. You can be trafficked right where you are. So so definitely in terms of Jamaica, let me tell you about Jamaica first. Jamaica is seen as a source country. That means we provide victims. It's seen as a transit country, meaning that people come from one place to here and then move on to another. And a study that was done also shows us as a destination. No, people come from all over the place, because if we had the map, we would put up the map to show exactly where we, Jamaica, situate, where it is so easy to move people. Remember I was telling you about the Honduran.
Jamaica geographically is like at the center of the world. I mean, and that makes us a very important transshipment point, and for illicit and illicit goods.
Definitely. And in this case, we're talking about human beings. And that is why people say it's modern day slavery, because of what you have to go through and so on. But going back to the point, in that we have worked with situations, you see, Sir Clive and your listeners, where people move from one parish, was taken by in-between persons from one parish to another parish, to a place like akin to a market, like a slave market. And these were mainly women. And they were put out there for whosoever they pick up persons, in between persons, going to choose where to take them. And we didn't mention that, but it's like for massage parlors, bars, you know what I mean? And it says restaurants, and put them in forced begging. And those persons who would have moved from one parish in Jamaica to another parish in Jamaica set up like some slave markets, and people were coming and picking who they want to. And it's still imprinting my mind, because when people take out now and some gone and who looks sexy and gone to this and gone to that, there were some women, some young girls who was there. And when they see that they didn't feel they were sexy enough or whatever, started half stripping so that people could come and pick them up. And the government had to step in and mash down whatever it is and so on. So definitely we have internal. That's the point of that exercise there.
So
I still get passionate when I talk about that.
In point of fact, a place like Jamaica plays multiple roles in this trade and this trafficking, because it is a transshipment point, it is a source point, and it's a destination point. Dependent on who the trafficker is.
Yes, and what they want.
And what they want.
And what they want the victims for.
Mm-hmm. Let me ask you one question about trafficking for organ harvesting. How much of that is a part of the business of human trafficking?
I think internationally, so maybe the police or so would be able to answer that more because they would deal with that from an international point of view. We ourselves, but in terms of just proof, we have not seen much of that here. We have not heard about any of our traffickers in other countries that we are protocol with that has happened. But we do know, and I could get that and send to your producer some more when I get the information from the police, because they have been doing sessions on organ removal for trafficking purposes. But it's not something that we do have. We have not heard it here, in a large basis, and we have not heard of any of our nationals that would have happened to. But that would need to be verified as we go. We could send that information because we have, as you would know, anti-trafficking squad, A-tip squad, we call it, in the police force that deals with all matters that have to do with trafficking, human trafficking in persons here.
I mean, you have any figures for Jamaica, for example, of people who have been rescued from their traffickers? Any idea what that might be? Is it a low rate of recovery and rescue? What is it like?
Okay, so basically over a 10-year period, we would have rescued over more than 100 and plenty, because the last figure had gone up to when we were looking at 2020.
Out of how many reported cases? 120.
I don't have that in front of me right now.
You have rescued 120.
I think we have rescued over 120.
That's over what period?
Over a 10-year period.
Right.
And then we have each year
how many cases you
tally the cases per year. I didn't know you were going to go in that detail because I was asked to speak about the IOM project, and I do not know the figures. I have some figures in my head, but when it comes to trafficking, we have to be very careful in terms of what we articulate.
Right.
We do not want to blow it up overtly, or we do not want to understate it, because one of the rules that we have is trying to combat it. So we have to make sure that the public information is as solid as it is. So we do have, the cases, and we do get the report. As a matter of fact, one of the big things that the chairman is doing now is making sure that the next step that we move to is consolidate the data management and the data analysis, and to have a monitoring and evaluation framework within as we move towards. That's why I said to you when you said earlier, call it into being in terms of moving to a unit. Because what we do have, yes, we do have the cases, because we have to report internationally to the U.S. Congress that take information across the world yearly. But because I was here to talk about the campaign. The IOM,
the International Organization for Migration.
Yes, and then now you have taken me.
Yes, I've taken you off.
Worldwide.
Yes,
but I don't mind it, because we do really want to push the information. But usually I believe, and as when you go to speak about a serious matter like this, you have to be.
No, you have to have your facts.
Yes. As possible. And I do have figures, but I would prefer
Yes, to hold them. Yes, we can understand. Before we go, Audrey, just give me an indication of the nature of this IOM national campaign on human trafficking, because it involves the creative output of a lot of children. You want to tell us a little bit about that?
So, as I was mentioning before, it's they had this campaign with over 20 children and young adults, going up to about 24 and 6. And it's I was saying before, to as the children and adults to identify signs of trafficking. So even some of our posters and so on, we have in terms of how are you a victim of human trafficking? You also have rights and so on, and we do have the flyers and so on. But what IOM did now is also prepare the young people, give them, they had seminars, they had, workshops and so on, so that they could understand, even within their own language and the age and stage that
yes,
they
because being able to reproduce the message in their own language will help the dissemination of that message.
Definitely. And it seems that it was a success, because we had they ensured that they targeted children as part of the vulnerable group, because as you know, you're just open to anything and you would be easily fooled and so on. So definitely they really worked with them in terms of that. So the campaign definitely was, in terms of what they did and the competition and the kind of art they have and so on, definitely we have to go put back up that exhibition for people to come, So the social media component went on for some time and will continue. And in terms of this interview and some of the other public service interviews that we're going to have, is going to look at what and how the youngsters had put forward, their own creative juices as it related to
spreading the message.
Understanding and spreading the message from that age group. So the messages will be highlighted on the different social media platforms over the period of time. And then we will definitely push, because as you know, Jamaica is right. So we would want to...
So it's all about building awareness. Thank you so much, Audrey Budhi, for sharing with me and the listeners about human trafficking and measures that are being taken to counter this.
Yes, and we will make contact with your people, because we really want to. We are very happy that you have accepted the request, IOM and ourselves.
You're
nice
most
talking
welcome.
To you.
You're most welcome.
Okay,
Great
then.
talking to you, Audrey.
All right, all the best and congratulations and all the success to you too.
Thanks a million. Bye-bye. We're going to be talking with a young artist, not one of the well-established ones. He is, though, quite promising. I was introduced to him recently, and, he was in the festival song competition at some point this year. And he's a very interesting writer and a very interesting artist. In fact, his name is Intrestt with an additional T. And I'm going to be talking with this youngster, relatively, yes, about his music and what he has been doing. Now, he has been associated with the king himself out of Waterhouse, and that is quite a seal of approval there. When you have the king supporting you, it indicates that there is some great promise, because I've not seen the king being excited for a long time about an artist like this, and I think there is quite some promise in this young man. Talking about Intrestt. Intrestt, are you there?
Yeah.
You're there, yes, man. So what's happening?
Hear me?
I'm seeing you and I'm hearing you. I'm hearing you. So how are you doing today, man?
Not bad, you know, just there, I take it in the weather and I take it one step at a time, you know?
Taking in the weather, yes. So you are new to the Jammy stables. Tell me how you got involved with that.
Well, it all started from the engineer, you know, introducing me to the studio, voicing.
The engineer, we're talking Shimo.
Yeah, Shemo.
Yes.
I did voice a song for Shemo and the king come and listen to the song. And then they give me 2 one-drop rhythm and I voice them and him end up love my writing skill and love my voice. And so him call me over in a meeting, and reason and put pen to paper, and it all started from there.
Yeah, and then what happened? He introduced you to the king?
Yeah, and me and the king going to some meeting where they tell me say I want me to start do some music for him. So I start do some voicing. He love the work me I put in, so he end up start take on to me more till we go through the festival where we get even more interested now. So from there, everything started.
How long have you been in music?
Well, music is a thing when I'm born in a still, because my father used to do music and my other 2 brothers also.
Your father was a recording artist?
Yeah, he never really get to go as far as me, because, you know, back in the days, it was never, him they have to end up out there and try to get something in our mouth same way, because nothing really there going for the music, so. Me take a stand now and say me I gotta take it to a further than where my father do, so that's how me end up in music, but me I do it from a tender age.
So you are from what area? You're from St. Catherine?
Yeah, I'm from a place called Gregory Park.
Gregory Park. Mm-hmm. And you said it was the engineer who introduced you to Jammy and to Waterhouse. And so what did you start with in terms of music? What kind of music catches your fancy?
Well, my all started from, you know, we come from the garrison, so we always had the music with pain, so started from culture. I do dancehall, but I'm more a culture lover, where I can sing about what happened around me. And
you like talking about the things that are happening in your community, but you're not promoting any negativity. That's what you're saying.
No, I'm not a violence promoter.
Nice.
It's one way. I express myself through the music. So you will hear my pain through my song. Then if a girl ever broke my heart, I put it to music.
Yes. And the things you see happening in your community, you will try to improve the situation by using music.
Yeah, so because them say music is life, you know. So some of the time, said like how them do the slack song and the kids them catch on to it. Me and one of the youth them always try to do the positive, so the youth them have a positive mindset and have a positive vibration. No youth is not a leader, you know.
So you have artists that you look up to and you see as a role model for your career?
Yeah, from me and you, me always like Berries. Always I listen to Berries. Berries and Buju Banton.
Yes?
Me not too listen to nowadays dancehall and them things like that can give a meditation and a relaxation. I just be a killing and gun and chopping and
so you want whole and medi.
Yeah. So
yeah.
Keep it.
All right.
Stick to
all
the
right.
roots.
I want to hear a little bit. I want to hear a little bit about your sound. So I'm gonna play something that we have here, and then you're gonna tell us about it. All right. This is Intrestt, the artist Intrestt.
No complain or frown. No have nothing for prove, but some vex when you tell them the truth.
Conscious music sounding good, really sounding sweet. Talking about Intrestt, boy, his journey, it not easy. And you see, here's what we're talking about. People, young ones, need to know that life is not the easiest thing. You have to be patient. And this is a most positive message. Yes, a production from the King, from Waterhouse, Jammy's production. Yes, with the young artist Intrestt. Now, so tell me a little bit about this song, Intrestt. How did it come about?
Well, this song, it all started from get up one morning, sit down on my yard gate, just all the morning vibes and I made back my life. How far me I come from, things that we go through, cause where we come from is not that we come from the inner city, you know? So we open up to many things. So it's just the decision that you make. So me never choose to be a follower, me choose to be a leader. So me just sit down and I meds, pray about the youth them. Much friend me have gone, much friend me have there, you see them where we want to make a change, but sometimes through circumstances and through where you come from, you can't do better. But so me are one of them youth that will sit down and meds say, alright, me I go do this. For come back and help the youth them, because good people come from in the ghetto too. No youth never get a chance, no youth fatherless, no youth motherless. So when I sit down and pray about the things that were happening in my community now, this is why I come up with this song.
It's a
where
beauty.
I come from is an inner city, so that's why even at the last verse I hear me say, it's not a crime because you're poor. Once your hands clean and your heart pure, them say wanting to get you wanting more.
Well, that is pretty positive, and everybody who hears this one should be really commending you for this effort. It is really a beautiful song, catchy but thoughtful and positive, and we really must commend you and the King himself, Jammy, for finding this one. We're going to take a break, and when we come back we'll be wrapping up with you, Intrestt. You will give us another one of your songs and we will talk a little bit more with you before we go. A most interesting artist. Talking about the artist Intrestt from the King Jammy stable. He has some very interesting productions, and the fact is they are most conscious, most thoughtful, and this is the kind of thing we got to promote. We have to promote this kind of positivity. Yes. Intrestt, you there?
Yes, sir.
Yes. Now, most people who went to school with you would not know you as Intrestt. You're Davian Bent, right? Is that your name?
Yeah, correct.
Right. But you have now morphed into Intrestt, and you have launched a most interesting career. And this is a path that you're going to be sticking to. I mean, consciousness, positivity, and really reflective kind of music, the kind that really is thought-provoking and which will make younger people of your age think a little bit more about what are the good things that they can do. And so we want to commend you this afternoon for the positive messages that you have been pushing, and we're going to be supporting that kind of thing. And we want to hail the King, Miss Iris, yes, the Waterhouse crew. The King is still in the ring and still producing, and we want to salute not only Intrestt but the entire production crew from Waterhouse. Thank you very much, Intrestt, for being with us, and we're looking forward to more great stuff from you. And if you have one last word to say, what would it be before you go?
First and foremost, I say enough respect to Father God, enough respect to the King, Miss Iris, and the whole family. And my word for the day is youth, just stay positive, believe in yourself, move towards your goal, stay away from crime and violence. I know where you're from, is what you choose to do.
Yes, and Sir J, if I can just get a little piece of the one we played first before we go, just to go out with Intrestt.
Me say me jolly easy.